muchísimas gracias por este honor. Vengo en representación de Claire O'Neill, la CEO de AGF, a Greener Festival, y tengo unas palabras en inglés que me gustaría compartir con ustedes. All of us at AGF are so happy and grateful to receive the Primavera Award. AGF started 15 years ago as a way to boost action of festivals to care for environment and people, and the purpose behind the party. And today, we are a global team working throughout the music and event space. At the core of it all is a desire for enrichment and enhancement of life. By living lives filled with fun, community, and creativity, as we do at festivals, and by protecting and enhancing life in the natural world at the same time. This award is gratefully received by the hundreds of AGF assessors and team all around the world, the hundreds of festivals who have participated over the years, and the thousands of individuals who have taken strides over these decades to make a greener music sector. We thank you all.
It is vitally important to review and reduce the environment impact of music festivals, and we have top professionals for the occasion. Here on the screen is Jocelyn Gunn connected. No? Well, here on the stage we have the biologist Irene Alvarez de Quevedo Gispert. We have Marta Rojas from the United Nations, and here it is. Jocelyn Gunn from the Festival, thank you for coming. This is a conversation led by Alvarez Bocchetto, who is involved in Primavera Sound Sustainability Improvement Action. So now you have the word. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. How is everything?
Hi.
So yeah, well, the fight to achieve all the sustainable development, the SDGs on the agenda is in the agenda of any large-scale music event. In our case, one of the sustainability elements that has been implemented this year is the renewable energy batteries of 2 of the stages.
Yeah.
So as you know, we are working now with fuel and fossil fuel for all the other stages, and we have implemented new ones with the electric and renewable energy batteries. And we are working also on the maximization of the energy that we get from the grid with the help of a Cefinar consultancy, so we can reduce the emissions by a further 6 times. So now remains a lot to be done now, and this debate will be focused on all these aspects. And so we have some questions for you, so we can discuss about it. And just to start, like talking about the 2030 agenda, how do you see the implementation of the 2030 agenda and the application of the SDG in the cultural industry and specifically in festivals? Marta.
Yeah. Thank you, Alvarez. And first of all, congratulations to the Greener Festival. It's great to see you guys winning the award, and it makes a lot of sense that it happens here at Primavera. We have been working together with you guys for a while, and it's incredible to see, like you're saying, the implementation of the SDGs of the festival and also the progress being made every year, right? And I guess, well, before answering your question, for those of you who don't know what the SDGs stand for, what the Sustainable Development Goals stand for, there are a set of 17 to-dos that were agreed by all governments at the General Assembly. And it's the most inclusive, the boldest, and the most universal agenda ever made. It says basically that it's not just for governments to achieve it, but it's also for us as individuals, for private sector, and for organizations. And so music festivals play a really, really important role. I would say twofold. There's, first of all, as a platform, right? Because when we work with behavioral change, and we know that that happens when, it might sound kind of trite, but when the heart and the mind is connected, and when you can experience, you can feel change, and you can experience how that change can be lived. So music festivals provide that space. So we see that as a like huge potential. And then, of course, as an industry, it's massive what it creates. So we've seen a huge change, and the Greener Festival, of course, it's a big part of that, and also Primavera as a leader in the industry, also leading and using that leadership as an example. So when we started working with you guys, it was because you had the first gender equal lineup at this scale, which was massive, and it was so beautiful because it went beyond the lineup. You could feel it in the message that was coming from the stage. So that is super important, how we can see women and gender minorities on stage and off stage, and then of course reducing emissions, offsetting emissions, like you're saying, solar-powered stages, of course banning of plastics. All of these are measures that we see more and more, and that are not really an exemption, but rather becoming the rule. And we see that also from like the music raters or artist raters pushing for these measures. So it's really empowering. It's really inspiring to see, and we're here to work with you guys and with Greener Festival to continue to push beyond this, because of course there's always more and more that we can do.
Yeah, cool. So do you have something to say, Jocelyn, just from Greener Festival? You are actually really involved on the 2030 agenda, so.
Mm-hmm. Sure. I think Marta did a great job in explaining what the SDGs goals and intentions are. What we're really seeing across all the industries is that people are using the SDGs as a guideline and a way to connect all of these different industries in our environmental and sustainability work. There's a lot of power in collective action, and I think aligning festivals, live events with the SDG is the next natural evolution of the work that we're doing. We should be working with other organizers. We should be working with other industries to help achieve our goal. Because at the end of the day, this is a global issue, and it requires a lot of different collaborations to make it happen.
Yeah, well, in the line, like, how do you think that we can mobilize like major retailers and companies and sponsors to join this fight for the environmental justice?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I always like to say that the first step is to start having a conversation about what your goals are and what your retailer company sponsors' goals are. The chances are, since climate change and climate action is on a global agenda, they may already have some goals set in place already. And if they don't, then perhaps you could be a very useful partner in pushing them and having goals themselves and hold each other accountable. There's no harm in asking. I think one big thing with sustainability is that you can't manage what you don't measure. Mm-hmm. So if you don't have this conversation now of tracking different goals or figuring out what each other's goals are and how you can support it, it makes this journey just that much harder. So I would say the first step is to always have a conversation, treat it as a collaboration, and help each other out.
Yeah, sure. One of the conversations we had was with a water supplier, for example. We just banned the selling of water, plastic water for this year. Now we had some changes due to some organization, but for this year we are working with a brand that is protecting the ocean, and for us today we have Irene. And regarding the festivals taking place on the coast, what impact do they have on biodiversity, and what tools are available to reduce the impact?
Yeah, first of all, thank you for being here. I think as a biologist, I think it's really great to talk about sustainability in a festival like that, no? And yes, we have a very big problem with plastics. And as a company that we work to protect the ocean, the impact that we can do to the ocean is really huge. And for me, it's we have to think a lot about that, because there is a really big relationship between our health and the health of the sea. And in big events like festivals like the ones that you said in the beaches, no, the impact that could create is really huge. And we have to think about the waste management in that way, and think about all the consequences of waste and plastic when we have a plastic in the hand, no, and the consequences that if you throw this at the beach, at the end we will go to the sea. And it's the same when we are in the city, yes? Exactly the same. But in a place that we concentrate so amount of people, the potential to impact, it's really big. You can think about the years and years that will remain this plastic inside the sea. So we have plastics on the surface, we have plastics in the column of the water, we have plastics in the bottom of the sea. And all the biodiversity that live there is impact. And researchers, scientists, now we can say that all of the food chain that are inside the sea is affected by plastics. And also us, just now, already we have microplastics inside. So it's really important to think about this relationship, not only for the environment, for the sea, for the biodiversity, also for us, no? For this relationship between our health and the health of the sea. This is really important. And when we organize a really huge event with a lot of people, think about the consequences, not only in the beach, that will be maybe for the tourism or to keep clean or pretty, no? And also the second phase, no? What will happen after that? What will happen maybe in the turtle that will pass there and get or maybe eat some of plastics, no? And we have to think further.
Yeah, I think one of the actions that we're taking this year is after the festival, as we have some of the shows that are taking at the beach, we are cleaning the beach with some kayak teams that will come over and just clean all around the rocks, also the sand. So we are trying to prevent this, and we're doing this with Ocean 52, that is one of the water supplier. So trying to get this, it's part of that. Like we are creating an impact, we try to solve it, we try to just minimize it. So yeah, we're just like, I don't know if from Greener Festival you have any actions that we could work with against this pollution, ocean pollution.
Yeah, pollution is a really tough one to tackle. I think one of the most common strategies is what you just mentioned, Albert, is having a team after the event help collect any kind of waste, unintended waste that's around the site. I really want to echo what Irene just mentioned about human health. I really think that's an important point to emphasize, that a lot of this work impacts human health. And that affects all of us on an individual level. Microplastics, they're finding microplastics in the bloodstream of babies. And that to me is such a wild fact to grasp my mind around, because it just shows how prominent this issue is within our health and directly in our communities. So for events itself, other than reducing the single-use plastics that you are bringing on site, that should be your first strategy. But after that, any kind of plastics that you do have to bring on site, always deploy multiple teams to clean up after that. You can even do post-environmental testing to make sure that your efforts are yielding in clean sweeps of your area. That kind of follow-up is incredibly important, just to make sure that your intention does have the impact that you are creating to do.
Great. Marta?
I think I would build on what we're saying. Also, as communicating and visualizing this is super important as well. So, beach cleanups are a huge action driver also for a lot of people, because it's easy. Sometimes it's easier to connect with certain issues than with others. And I think oceans and the beach is something a lot of us love and feel very connected to. So I think perhaps building on that is how can we make sure that participants at the festival, for example, are aware that this is happening. Also because it's really cool to know that you're having amazing fun at the same time, you're having minimal impact, which is something that I think all of us really care about. And then how can we stay connected to that in the long run, right? I mean, you guys brought the festival to a 10-day marathon, so that can also continue in all our heads and in the way we connect with the beach. So once you've done it once, every time that you go to the beach, you realize that you can find microbeads and you can find trash around you. And perhaps to maintain these connections, so every time that you go somewhere, you pick 3 pieces of trash, for example, and put it in the trash bin. And perhaps we can even create more of a snowball effect, and you post about it and tell some of your friends to do the same. And I think this is why, yeah, it's something that is super important, and I'm really inspired about what Irene was saying as well. And there might be ways from this year to next year. Let's see how we can make that change exponential.
And even improvement. Sometimes it's quite hard to communicate without like brainwashing or whatever. So of course we want to communicate more to our attendants and participants. But just going through that to the user and public, like how does the user experience impact on maintaining sustainability within the event, and how can they contribute? It's like how can they work on that? Of course, we just are now like giving them the option just to get these reusable cup plastics, which is get down 4 tons since 2019. But these good decisions and practices on the part of the organization positively affect the attendance? Like, how do you see it in other festivals, in other sectors?
Sure. So people come to festivals and events to experience new things and to make memories. And that's why we all enjoy doing the work that we do. So I would say, why not make sustainability a part of their experience as well? Like what we've already spoken about, teaching attendees to dispose and recycle of their waste properly helps people create that habit that they can bring back home themselves. Other things are maybe having people talk about or being more clear about the environmental and health benefits of eating local, seasonal ingredients and plant-based meals could encourage attendees to seek out those types of meals in the future. So visibility and public engagement are one and one the same. I would say a lot of the things that happen on site are things that people can understand and contribute to your goals, as well as bringing those goals back home as well.
Yeah, maybe I can build up on that as well. And also, for example, encouraging public transport to go to a festival, or like has a huge impact if we decide, those of us who can, to take a train instead of flying, for example. Or you guys are offsetting emissions. That is also a huge example. That can inspire a lot of people, or even that could be an option when you're buying tickets to offset the emissions directly, for example. Or just, like I think we're all saying, making something visible, and it encourages others to also want to join and want to make that change in their own lives. Yeah, I think the answers to that question are just immense. And maybe the one thing that I would add is we could also ask participants, because I don't hold all the answers. I don't think anyone in this roundtable holds all the answers. So also invite people to show up and share new measures, for example, that they are taking, and that creates that sort of like butterfly effect, and also growth. Because there's so many professionals also probably at the festival who have they're coming there to have an incredible music experience, but they're probably also working with sustainability, for example. And there are many, even like incredible solutions that are created almost every day, on like new materials and new ways of changing things. So I would say like also opening up and hear from the community.
For me also is important the basic message that we can send to the most of people, but also for young people. We are working a lot in high schools and schools, and you can see how childs and young people are disconnected from nature, no? So sometimes they simply don't think about it, because their daily life is inside the city and don't care about some things that for me, for example, as a biologist, are really important, no? And you can see sometimes this disconnected minds that I said from nature, and for this big problem that we have in our planet, that is this climate change, all this situation that we have. So if from a big event like big festivals, beach festivals, we can set a message like that. It's in fact it's an educational message, no? To at least be conscious and take care, no, of nature. So it's important to give this I don't know, to push, no, for young people to do that and have ideas, like you said, no, and be involved in that way.
Yeah, I think we totally agree with that, and that's why this round table now, it's just getting some part of nature people and festival people, and also of course UN nation people. For us, like it's getting all these connections between all of us and trying to spread this message as the better we can. It's sometimes quite hard. Yeah. But one of the important steps that all festivals are seeking now is just like become a plastic free. It's an easy word, but I think it's so hard to get to that point. So what steps are missing to achieve a plastic free with integrity? And where are we, for example? You are from Greener Festival, Jocelyn, so you know how we're working now, and Marta has been working with us also for the whole year, just checking how we're moving, and where are we, and what do we need to achieve all this?
Yeah, plastic free is definitely a very common goal, as you mentioned, and I think part of that is because it's such a visible thing that you see on the ground. There's a lot of touch points. There's a lot of hands on single-use plastics. So let's say cups as an example. Just think through how many cups that gets used that also have to end up being collected, cleaned, and recycled at the end. And one solution is to just eliminate single-use plastics, which, like you said, is not very easy. I think right now what we're seeing is that there is a greater demand from attendees and organizers to be plastic free. And what needs to happen is that someone needs to be there to meet the demand. There are going to be more companies that pop up that have reusable options for the single-use plastics that we see. And that's where we're going. That's the trend we'll see moving forward very soon. When there's a demand for certain services, innovation typically comes along with it. So I do think that we are going to see a lot more partnerships, either nonprofit organizations or even perhaps your sponsors who have similar goals like that too. There's that very common mantra of reuse, reduce, recycle. All of that information is a hierarchy. You want to first reduce everything that you're using. And once you've gone to that, you want to be able to reuse materials rather than purchasing new items. And for all of these items that you can't reduce or reuse, you are going to go ahead and see if you can recycle that material. And that should really be your key 3 steps when you're thinking about plastics or even any other kind of production materials that come through your doors. Ask yourself the questions, can I reduce this? If not, can I have a reusable option? And if not, can this actually be recycled and composted at the end?
Great, noted. Marta?
I mean, I think Jocelyn put it perfectly. I think the reusable cups were an incredible first step a few years ago. And then it's going a little bit deeper. Maybe like Irene was saying, like the next layer. So where is the other plastic or single-use plastic or plastic being used? For example, on the food trucks, what is it, like packaging? There's also so many solutions right now out on the market.
No, we're going bio. It's like everything is bio, so it's
exactly.
compost. So I think we're just going step by step on that. So.
Absolutely, I think you could really also see it this year. Yeah.
And start to be, I don't know how to say that, but more exigente, no? I don't know how to say, for ourselves, no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And start not only in these big events, also thinking individually, no? Thinking about you are using plastics, so it's thinking inside, start on yourself and try to give this message every day in everything that you are doing, at work, at home. Start that, because in this sense you will be able to give this message and start that make grow this message, no? And start to think about that every day inside you, and then all together we will have a really big power to do that. Imagine in a huge festival like that, if everyone starts from ourselves, no? So from inside, and then all together, I think we can change things really. And now is the moment, because the fragility of this planet, of our nature, is really big, and the impact that we have and we are doing on nature is really huge. So now is the moment, and we have the opportunity to change that, and if we have the possibility, I think we must do it. We have the responsibility to do it. So I think this is a really perfect moment to have power, no? to try to work on it. It's not easy in a big way, no? It's not easy, of course, But we have to do that. It's the moment. It's the situation that we have is urgent. So
Sure.
I think the message is really important.
Sure, we agree with that. We agree with all these steps with the 3 R's, the reuse, reduce, recycle. So some of the materials that we're using now, like we see artificial grass. So I think it's the 5th year we're using the same grass for the whole festival now. So of course it creates some impact for some products just when you buy them, but the more you use them, the more you reduce this impact. So that's why sometimes you choose water cans or whatever, because aluminum gets like forever recyclable, so we can just try to check these points and work on them. But we are always thinking about plastic. But what other kind of materials have you seen on the industry, maybe from music festivals or other productions and everything? So Jocelyn, what do you see on the industry now, like other materials that can be used and reduce this impact?
Sure. That's a really good question. And I think the big question to ask yourselves, if you're an organizer, is what are the effects of your materials and activities downstream? And what does that mean is, what happens to all of your materials after you're done using them? Are they going to be reused, recycled, composted in the landfill? And a lot of these impacts happen after the actual event. And when we talk about materials and reducing the impacts of materials, we really want to start moving towards the circularity of our materials. And what that means is that all of the materials that are collected after the event could be collected, reprocessed, and be made into another product that could be purchased and used and then recycled to be put into a new product once again. So aluminum is a really great example. That kind of material can be reused pretty much infinitely as long as it's put into a correct facility to do that. One other example that we're seeing is carpeting. And there are companies out there who take back carpets after they're being used. Now, this is typically an item that could either be rented, but in the event that you are, let's say, buying your own carpet rather than renting, and something that you're putting in storage, and after 5 years of using this carpet, maybe that's the end of its lifetime. So there are also companies out there that take this material back, they'll shred it and make it into new carpet again that you can purchase. So you're really creating both the supply of materials while buying the end product as well. And this kind of system you can see across other types of material types. And the ultimate benefit is that you are reducing the demand for virgin resources. They're not going out making a carpet from scratch. Rather, they're just reusing the waste that we produce into something that people would want in the end as well. So I think that that's some of the trends that we're seeing. What vendors are there out there that would collect these single-use items that you have that can be remade into something else?
Great.
Yes, I guess also stages, for example, and like it's to Jocelyn's points at the beginning, the number one or the first step is reducing, right? It's not just what materials we use, but where do we source them from? Are we looking at local sourcing? Are we looking at reusing, for example, stages? Or when we put at a show, how can that show be reduced to a minimum in the electric needs, for example, or the emissions as a whole, without, of course, losing the experience, because we're there to to have fun, to get immersed in a completely new world. But there are ways to do this, and I think it's just about changing mindset and having an incredible show, but still having climate and having equity in mind always. And I think I want to build on what you were saying also at the beginning. It's also putting the participants not just as passive users of the new sustainability measures, but also as as active participants of that new sustainability standards. So if we ask them to bring a bottle, for example, to the festival, because there's going to be water stations, for example, that they can, what is this made of? Maybe just ask the question, so people can ask their questions for themselves, and that can create a much more integrated experience where Primavera or festivals enable that sustainable experience, and the people coming in also continue to make it grow.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people is asking for that. No, a lot of people is waiting that big events like that start to do something in this way. So it's good to give that. No, if people that are conscious about that start to have the answer in events like that, like festivals, they will be every day more conscious and will spread the message more and more. So I think is that we are here talking about that. Why? Because we are conscious about sustainability, and it's really important. So we have to help to spread this message, and we have to think a lot about that. Now we have a lot of possibilities of plastic from one single use. So maybe many years ago it was more difficult, but year by year, or because of the technology of I don't know, many things, we have every day more possibilities to fight that. So all of that we are saying here is important, and I think we have to think more about that, really. Yeah.
Well, that's why we're here now, and we do care about that, and that's why we have this award to Greener Festival for this year. We do have this roundtable just discussing about that, trying to find new solutions, and that's why the Primavera is just getting worried about future sustainability, climate change, and all this. So we would be like really happy just to keep working with you and with this team that we are creating a little bit. Like we feel a Greener Festival as a part of the team. We feel the UN. We feel now new partners that are getting, and for us is some kind of strategic partners, just to improve the experience and to make a sustainable growth without getting that impact growth also. So thank you just for being here, and we are happy to see you next year, next editions, and thank you to all.
Thank you.
Thank you, and congratulations.
On the program. we can just talk now if you want. We can talk it now if you want. Okay, guys? Thank you.